All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in for the second episode of Just Call Me Bridget podcast. And I'm so excited today because my second guest is a long awaited guest. Honestly, when I was going through the list of who I need on this podcast, I had so many people trying to find out all about traveling, especially people that are just coming to Australia. They had all the questions about where do I buy plane tickets, how to get the best prices, who do I turn to, where do I get all the support. And I have on this podcast today a Aerotravel's travel agent, and I'm so excited to have her here because honestly, I've been using her pretty much every time that I've traveled. And we had so many issues during COVID when we went back home. And honestly, she had the best support for us 24/7. It's unreal. And I've had my mom use her when she was coming to visit me. So it's honestly such a good way to travel and get off of that stress of trying to handle everything yourself. Um, so welcome to the podcast, Kairi.
Hello, and thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
I'm so excited. Do you just want to start off by telling all the listeners a little bit about yourself and your Australian journey here, maybe?
Ah, I think this story is quite simple and kind of like everyone else's. Like you come for 1 year and then apparently you stay for nine out of nowhere. So I came here with my partner. It's been almost 9 years now. Um, and yeah, I think the story is just like that. We just came here, fell in love with the place, the lifestyle, the people, and then we kind of were presented of the opportunity to have the sponsorship visa, which we just kind of took it, and here we are now.
That's so amazing. So 9 years you've been here.
It's been almost 9 years. Yeah, we came here 2016 at the beginning of the year, um, and basically just after being 1 year on the working holiday visa, my partner got a sponsorship offer, and we just took it. And now, just in June, we put in our permanent residency application. So hopefully, soon enough, we'll be the Australian permanent residents.
Very exciting. I can't believe it's 9 years though. Like, yeah, the visa is absolutely insane. Why did you even come to Australia? Where did that idea come from for you?
Um, I think I was still in middle school, actually, to be fair, because my brother moved to Australia like 2009. And that was actually the start for me when I just kind of thought, like, oh, I actually want to go there one day as well. So that's how it kind of started for me. But obviously life happens, I was so young as well, so in the middle school, so what I was, I don't know, maybe what, 14, 15. So obviously I went to the uni and all that sort of stuff, and then one day, out of randomly, my partner just brought it up again, like, hey, what do you reckon, maybe we should go to Australia. And from there, it went really fast. We just bought the tickets. Like, I think we were talking about it in the summer of 2015. And then at the beginning of 2016, we already flew out here. So it's kind of, you just, you get so tired with the weather and the cold in Estonia. And you have so little daytime in there. So my partner is working as a plumber. So he was working. He went to the work, it was dark outside. He got home, it was dark outside. During the day, he didn't see any daylight because he was working in the basement or whatever. So it was just miserable. You get depressed in there. So that's why we decided, like, okay, let's go see Australia for 1 year because the warm weather, the sunshine. So I think that was the most appealing thing about it, and that's why we kind of decided, like, okay, let's pack our bags, and we had nothing. at the time. Well, we still don't have much like in Estonia that would hold us in there. Because when you're young, you don't have much commitments. You can do whatever, and I think that's the best time to actually travel and see the world and live a little bit outside of your home country.
Mm-hmm. How many times have you been back home ever since, like during those 9 years that you've been here?
So we went 2017, 19, 22, and 23. So what that's 4 times? Yeah, 4 times.
So not a lot.
Well, I guess some would say that's quite a bit. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's been enough because it's we've been there mostly for the summertime, and now the last time we went, it was for the Christmas because the last time we were home for Christmas was 2015. So we kind of felt like that's long overdue that we should go and celebrate Christmas
Mm,
when we actually have a Christmas feeling and snow and everything. So yeah.
yeah. Um, when we look at your social media, we can see just amount of like pictures of you playing disc golf. Did you discover playing that in here, or have you sort of always been
No,
into it?
that happened before we came here. I played in Estonia a little bit, but I mostly started playing like tournaments and stuff like that happened in Australia. Yeah. I was at some point I was quite heavily involved with disc golf in Australia, especially in Sydney because we live in Sydney. So basically at some point it was all weekends. There was nothing else. It was only disc golf. And most of the traveling around Australia I've actually done because of disc golf because the different tournaments in different cities, different places have always been, and that's why we've traveled quite a bit inside of Australia because we just took part of so many tournaments
Mm,
at some point.
that's so cool. So at what time did you actually start working as a travel agent?
It's been over 6 years now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, I had no background in travel before moving to Australia. It was mostly I've done sales basically my whole life, or the like the working life. So yeah, I had no travel experience, but I had heaps of sales experience, which obviously it's part of the industry, like you're selling the tickets, so you have to have some sort of experience in sales, but no travel experience. And they just kind of gave me the option to try it out, and here we are 6 years later.
So is that only like experience based, or when somebody wants to become a travel agent, do they need to go through some courses or?
It definitely would help because we do use quite a bit of a different systems and programs that you have to actually know. So it definitely would help if someone has experience of they tried at least one of because I think there's like three main programs that you can use if they would know how to use them. But everything you can learn everything basically on the go as well. You just have to have a really good teacher. And I was lucky because the boss that I have, she's amazing. She knows basically everything. So she taught me and that's why I guess I've been doing pretty well because I really had a good mentor, a teacher. She got me through all of these programs and everything.
That is so cool. Um, what does your company offer? When we were speaking to beforehand, you said that Aerotravel is mostly focused on the Estonian citizens. But what else do you like? I know that I've used your services, so I sort of now know like what to expect. But what else can like if a person is deciding, "Oh, I'm gonna go, visit back home or go and travel somewhere. What are the some of the things that you would make the person consider before taking a travel agent to deal with all of that for you or trying to deal with everything yourself?
So basically, the thing is that we do offer everything. So whatever travel related you want, we can organize that. So if someone goes like it doesn't even have to be like going home. If someone just wants to go on a holiday and they're like basically saying like, I don't even know where to go, so we can just organize like, hey, what is it that you like? Is there something specific that you've been dreaming about? So basically what we can say is that we sell dreams. So if someone is dreaming about going to Hawaii, or if someone is dreaming about, I don't know, seeing India, like we can organize everything for you. We can organize the hotels, we can organize the transport, we can organize your travel insurance. So whatever you want, we have it. Travel related, obviously.
What about like fees? What would you, obviously it's very variable to whatever the person is taking, but what would be the normal fees for just like for flight
So we
support?
um so it really depends on the situation, but we mostly the fee that we do have is like 75 Australian dollars per person. And that includes that we will organize the flights for you, the communication, everything, like looking for the best options, like that basically the $75 will cover everything. And that will cover also that if there's going to be any disruptions, any cancellations, whatever, will be there, will be helping, and that will be covered under that fee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What would you say in your 6 years that you've been working in that industry, what would be like the biggest mistakes that you see that people always keep, I don't know, like the biggest mistakes that they keep making, or some of the things they don't notice so quickly?
Mm, I don't know if I could say that that's the biggest mistake, but what I've noticed a lot of times that I guess that mostly applies to Estonians. When they have letters in their name, like right? So that's they don't actually use the correct way when they book the tickets. They don't check how is their name actually spelled in the passport. So that would be, I guess, one of the biggest hints I could tell everyone that is that if you're doing the bookings and you're not going through the travel agent who would tell you straight away, like, hey, just check how your spelling is in the passport, just check it yourself then. There's underneath, like, there's a little line in there where you can see how your name is spelled, and that's how you have to spell it in the booking as well. Because we've had situations where people haven't done it and they go to the airport and their visas don't match with the name, and the travel at the airport the check-in stuff will be straight away like, oh hey, like you don't have the visa, you can't travel, or your booking, your ticket doesn't match your passport, you can't travel. So that's like one of the biggest, I wouldn't say it's the biggest issue, but definitely an issue that people do. And the other thing is that people don't check what they actually need to travel through somewhere, because different countries or even different airlines have different requirements when you are flying through somewhere. So it's kind of important to have those things checked, and it can take a bit of a time. So that's why it's good to have a travel agent do that job for you, so you have more time to do whatever you else you want to do.
Yeah, I've experienced this a few times myself as well, where I'm like super positive that yes, I have 2 hours of layover, I'm fine, and no, I'm not fine. um, yeah,
That happens. Yeah.
yeah. What about like people who would like fly here from, let's say, Europe, and like one of the stopping points would be in Asia or in like some other countries. Do you know if there's any like specific documents that people need to look out for that you need to do?
Uh, that also, what it comes down to is that it's really hard for me to say that, yep, you definitely need something out here, because what applies to one might not apply to another. And it comes down to the fact that how the tickets have actually been done. Like if you're just having a layover there, or if you're actually literally stopping, you're entering the country, do you have to check in again? Do you have to collect your luggage? Because that way it's whole different story if just you're just transiting, just going through the country, or if you're actually stopping in there. And I think that's one of the things that happens a lot of times is that people buy the tickets, let's say from online somewhere, and they don't actually know if the ticket is it one ticket or all the flights on one ticket, or if it actually consists of many tickets that you would actually have to collect your luggage somewhere. Do you have to go to the immigration? So it's kind of a hard to say that yes, you definitely need something when you're flying through somewhere, but you might.
Mm.
So it's that's one of the things that definitely people have to double check before they're flying through somewhere. But if you're coming on one ticket and you're flying through Asia, you most likely will not need anything, except if you're flying via China, you might. So that's why it's a bit hard to say that you definitely need something, but you also might not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, we didn't really discuss what else you've been doing, so I'm not sure how um, how good you would be able to explain this. But I've had quite a few people write to me because obviously in Australia, you know, the states are so far apart. And if you're coming here to do a farm job, I know that a lot of my friends have actually made that mistake that they don't check like what states would have like farm seasons or whatever. So they might like fly to, they might just choose the state that they're flying to randomly and then find out like, oh, I landed in, you know, Sydney, but I actually should be in Queensland or whatever, or even, you know, Perth. So would you have any like suggestions for people when they are starting to, so they're just like, you know, newbies, they're just thinking, oh, I want to go to Australia, I don't know, before Christmas. Would you have any like sort of a breakthrough of like what to consider when actually picking the city that you're flying to?
I think that's a really good point of view saying that when the seasons are starting. So if people want to do their farm work straight away, they definitely should check what season is on and most likely what they want to do. I think Queensland is always a good option, even if there's like most people I think will do crane and stuff like that. But even if you're flying to Queensland at a random time, I reckon you'll find a farm job in there anyway, because there's most likely something going on in some farms. So I guess I would recommend flying to Queensland as an option. And I think a lot of people are flying to Perth, but mostly because it's usually cheaper to fly to Perth.
Mm, yeah. Um, so we talked about this a bit before, but what else should we look out for when booking flights? I know that I've been scammed when trying to find my flights through Momondo, which is like a very like famous website that people normally find like really really cheap tickets, but um, so just I was like trying to book my flights to go and visit Thailand, and I didn't like realize, um, you know, I was like, oh, this is such a good ticket, and then later on I realized like, oh, I actually have a layover for 16 hours somewhere, and I can only bring hand baggage, and you know, all of these other things. So would you have like any specific when people don't want to use a travel agent? Would you have any like websites that you can recommend that you can sort of get the best deals or something from?
It's to be entirely fair and honest, I actually don't know what's out there because I rarely check what's online because I don't really need it. I but what I would recommend is that it's fair. Sometimes people don't want to use the travel agents. That's fine, even though I really think that people should use us because I'm not saying we're the best, but we kind of are the best. But I know that there are some people who are really determined not to use a travel agent and they just want to use whatever website there is. Um, I would say that Skyscanner and Momondo, they're fine. Just do your research. Just read the reviews. Just double check that what people are saying, that you would be the most safe to actually do it. Or the other option is that if you don't want to use a travel agent, just go directly to the airline's website and book it through the airline itself, because then most likely you will not get scammed. It might be a bit hard if you need to change something or if there is something happening, some cancellations. It might be a bit hard to get through to them, but at least you know you will not get scammed because the airlines will not scam you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Um, so now I want to dig in a bit more into your own story in Australia, because obviously you've been here for quite a long time. Um, what would be your suggestions for someone that is like completely fresh and is planning to come to Australia or has just arrived in Australia? And then again, what would be your suggestions for people that have been here for a long time and are looking to extend their stay and stay here more permanently?
I think for someone who's coming here for the first time, I would just say that don't be scared. Like, there's no mistakes. Like, you literally cannot make any mistakes that are not fixable, most likely. I mean, now obviously there are some mistakes you can make that might affect you permanently, but most likely, I don't be scared. Like, there's nothing to be scared of. And if you're looking, like for example, if you're looking for a job, don't fill out the CV websites and stuff like that. Just call people, go to the places, introduce yourself, just be really fearless, and I reckon everyone will be fine. I think really because Australians have that no worries mentality, and I think that we should really adapt that because there literally are no worries. You just have to be fearless, and you just have to believe in yourself, and I reckon everyone will be fine. For someone who wants to be here for a longer time, um, I don't know. I guess you have to have a bit of a luck as well. Um, because I think it's getting harder and harder every year to stay here more permanently. So one of the suggestions I guess I could give is that just talk to the migration agents, because they will help and they actually know what they're doing. If someone wants to stay here permanently, they're looking for the options. They will most likely at least can give you some sort of an idea what to do or what your options are. Because I know they are limited, the options are limited. It's not that easy anymore as it was maybe years back. So it's kind of a hard to tell anyone, like, because everyone has different backstories and everyone has like big like different backgrounds. So yeah, I don't know. If someone has been for a long time already and they're looking for a more permanent option, they probably already kind of have some sort of idea what they want to do anyway.
Mm-hmm. What have been your and maybe your partner's like biggest challenges when you've been here?
Uh, to be fair, like I would say that our visa experience, so getting the visas have been not that hard. Because like I said, we got the sponsorship straight after being 1 year in here. But then came the challenge of I think there was a situation where the rules changed, or we were not really informed exactly what we would need to go straight, because we got the sponsorship for the 4 years. And then we were hoping kind of like we can go straight from being on that to the permanent residency. But then there was a bit of a miscommunication, and we realized that we actually need something else because my partner had Cert 3 in plumbing. And then we realized that he would actually need to Cert 4. And then we had to go for another sponsorship for another 2 years, which was a bit challenging in terms of that we were not kind of ready for that. But we were lucky because his company was really happy to do it for another 2 years. So we just went on it for another 2 years, and then we had the chance now to put in the permanent residency. But I think it was the most challenging part in the visa experience was to get all the necessary documentation that you would need because everything takes time in here, unfortunately. So we were kind of behind because of that, because it just took so long time to get the certs organized and all that. But other than that, I would say that just it hasn't been the most challenging to be in here because we've been a bit lucky. But we just, I guess now it's a bit harder for us because we just had a baby last year. So now being away from a family because we have a small kid is hard because you don't really have your village around here. But it's okay. We have each other, so we'll be fine.
Um, what would be like your deepest lessons, or what have been like the most impactful like moments for you? I know that Australia for me, I came here when I was 19 and I'm 25 now, and I feel like the amount of growth, like in like emotional intelligence way or whatever, I feel like it's been so much faster than it would have been back home because you're sort of in that, sweet little circle of, having your friends around, having your family around, being in, like familiar environments. Um, and going through all of these changes and sort of never having that security in visa wise or whatever. What would you say, like what's been like those sort of biggest lessons for you, or maybe like even pushbacks, like when you felt like, oh my god, like I don't know if I want to do this and if I can do this.
I think one of the things that Australia has taught me is that I'm definitely more open now. Um, I definitely have more. Yeah, I would say that I'm definitely more open and not so scared of people or life overall so much anymore. Um, and one of the things maybe that I would say that I can take a bit of a stressful moments of my life or a stress overall a bit better because this even like I'm saying like we've been lucky and it's been fairly easy experience for us. There definitely have been some moments that have been stressful. So I would say that I deal with stress a bit better now. It definitely have teach me that. Um, yeah, but like you're saying, like overall growing as a person, I would say that if you are away from your family, you are away from your secure place, it just you don't have any other options. You have to grow and you have to adapt to the situations that you might not even experience back home. So if you want to come to Australia to learn things about yourself and if you want to see what type of a person you really are, then I think that's exactly what everyone should do.
Mm-hmm. um you mentioned that you guys had a baby. Are you how how did it take you to adapt to the different system in here? Did you have many issues when obviously the hospital system here is different. Putting the kids to school and kindergarten here is completely different than back home. Do you feel that? Do you feel like it added sort of a bit more stress, or were you just excited to sort of go through that new experience with your newborn?
I think it's a both. You're scared, but you are also very excited about it. Um, well, I don't have the experience of back home because I've like he's my first kid, so I don't actually know how the hospital system is there exactly. But it was all the going to the doctors and the hospital and everything that was I would say it was fairly easy. Um, wasn't as stressful as I was afraid it might be. But now it's definitely a bit more stressful because, like I mentioned, we don't have the village around us. So he's growing every day, and like more and more the focus is on the baby, and you can do less because there's not really anyone around that I would leave the baby with, or I wouldn't say trust the baby with, but it definitely comes down a bit of a trust as well, because it would be definitely different if I had my parents around, so I could just easily leave the baby there and do something for myself. But right now it's just us. So we just have to kind of navigate this and support each other a lot in this because we just don't have anyone else. Um, but I would say I'm definitely more excited and having the baby in here, and the baby having the option to grow in such a beautiful country as Australia is, rather than being afraid or stressful, feeling stressful. So yeah, there's a little bit of both. You're excited, but you're also scared as hell
Yeah.
what's coming next. Because, like you mentioned, the system is definitely different. I know that. I know at least that people or the children will go to school earlier here than they would go back home. So that's definitely a bit scary because if you're looking at the 5 years old coming from the kindergarten or school and you're like, how? They're so small. They're just babies. How's that possible? So yeah, I'm definitely a bit scared of what's ahead, but I'm sure we'll manage.
Um, Going back a little bit to all of the travel topic, um, where would you suggest would be the best place for people to turn to when things have gone wrong, in terms of losing your baggage or, missing your flights? Is there any like specific insurances that you would recommend to get or keep in mind? I know, especially during COVID times when we were flying back home, I had a lot of my friends who actually never received their luggage, and they had to spend their whole entire time in Estonia without luggage and eventually got it when they arrived back to Australia. And I know that there's a few influencers going around that are talking about some sort of like systems and places that you can turn to where you can actually get like compensations for things like this. Do you have anything to share about that topic?
So basically, if something goes wrong, the first point of contact should be mm, the person that you booked your tickets through or the website that you booked your tickets through. Like that should be your first point of contact. But if your luggage goes missing, it's mostly you will contact your airline who you're flying with. Um, in terms of the compensations, there are some regulations and rules. It's not that easy, because there are like companies that will help you get the compensation from the airlines, but those mostly apply for the European airlines. There are some options to get in like compensation for the flight delays, for example, when you're flying to Australia, but there are rules around that. Like it depends on how long the flight was delayed, and mostly comes down to the reason of why the flight was delayed. For example, if it's unrelated to the airline, if the delay is because, I don't know, they can't fly because of the weather, then most likely you will not get any compensation because it's out of the hands of everyone. So the airline will most likely will not cover you. There are some insurance companies that might help in these terms, but also it comes down to the insurance company as well, because most of them, or like some of them, might have the rules that they will not cover in terms of weather delays. So if I would definitely recommend for everyone to have the insurance, because like I mentioned, like there are rules around it. Like there's some sort of like if your flight delays for 2 hours, for example, you might not get any compensation for that, but the insurance might help you, but you just have to double check the rules with the insurance company as well, what they actually cover and what not.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any specific like client stories that would stand out for you that you could share with the listeners?
There has been definitely some interesting situations. Like we've had customers going to the airport the wrong day. They literally thought that their flight will leave the next day if they went to the airport, and they've been told like, "Oh, your flight actually left yesterday. You're like 24 hours late." So that happens sometimes. That happens especially when the flight departs on a really odd hour, like let's say like 2 a.m. in the morning. So a lot of times people don't realize that you actually have to be at the airport the day before, at the evening, rather than going to the 2 a.m. on the same day. So what else has happened? Also, we've had a situation where a customer went to the airport and realized that his passport actually has expired, so they couldn't travel. Um, and I've actually made a mistake myself with my partner. We went to the US and didn't realize that his passport is gonna expire. Like at the time, I'm not sure what the rules are right now because I haven't checked for a long time for the US. But at the time, they had a rule that your passport has to be valid at least 3 months after you leave US, after you finish the trip. And his passport expired, like I think it was just 2 months left on his passport, and there was a very high chance that they will not let us into the country. We got there, the border security obviously wanted to have a chat with us, and they were like, "Okay, you have to come with us, and you have to go to the back room. We just want to have a bit of a chat with you." So I was all good. They told me that you can go through, but I had no information, so I was just sitting there waiting for him, and I was like, "Oh my God, what's gonna happen? Like, if they're gonna send him back, or like." Because I had no idea what's going to happen because there's a high chance that they will send you back, because they think that you're going to come here and you want to stay illegally to the country. And I was waiting. I think I was waiting for 45 minutes with no information what's going to happen, and he couldn't use his phone because he wasn't allowed to do that. And then suddenly at some point I see him walking there like he's like, "Oh yeah, it's all good. They just wanted to know what I'm gonna come here, like why I'm coming here, what I'm gonna do in here." I just told them that I'm gonna have a holiday and that's it. And they were like, "Okay, good. See ya. Bye." I was like, for 45 minutes? For what? Like, they just couldn't let you come through straight away because we told them straight away, like, it's just here for a holiday. Like, we're not going to stay here. So that was a bit funny. And now he kind of mocks me that I'm his travel agent, but I'm not very good at what I'm doing, which is not true. I'm actually very good. But that was, yeah, that was a funny mistake, which ended up being good, but it could have been really bad.
Oh my god, I would have been stressed as well. Um, there's also so much I don't know. There's so many times when when you come to Australia, you need to fill out that yellow card and declare everything that you're bringing over. I've been stopped by them every single time, and every single time I'm still bringing something that I'm not supposed to. And I feel like people always have issues with them. And lately, when I was speaking with my immigration agent, she actually said that they keep all of the declaration cards for 5 years. And when you apply for sponsor visa, they might use that against you. So I think people are always sort of just really taking it like, oh, it's whatever, I'm just gonna put out that I don't have anything, and then, you know, you might get stopped, and they might hold it against you later on as well. Um, would you like a quick sort of do you have you had like any instances at all when people have actually not been let into the country because of filling out that declaration form incorrectly?
I haven't had a situation that someone has been declared coming to the country because they filled that out incorrectly. I always, when someone asks me like, what can I bring over, I always send a link that from there's Australian border, whatever link there is. If someone wants to know, you can come and ask me when you're booking through me. But I always tell them to go through that, check what's in there, and if you're not sure what you're bringing over, if you're allowed to do it or not, just declare it. Because at the end of the day, um, if it's not allowed and you declare that you're bringing it over, they're just gonna take it away, and that's fine. But it's much, yeah, like you said, it's much bigger consequences if you don't actually declare it. First of all, you might get a fine for that. And like you mentioned, they might not let you into the country, or they will hold it against you when you want to have like another visa or something like that. So I think it's always easier just to declare what you have, and then they just either gonna take it away, or they might look at it and say like, yeah, that's fine, and just you can go. So I think there's no point of just risking it. I know that who doesn't risk, like we have this thing in Estonia, who doesn't risk to drink champagne, but I don't think that it's worth in this case.
um, if you could start your Australian journey all over again and go back all the way to 2016 when you first came here, would you change anything, or and what would you change?
I don't think I would change anything. I don't like, yeah, I don't think I would necessarily change anything. Like maybe the one thing that I would change is that we should have done a bit of a bit more research into when we were applying for the sponsorship, or when we were on the sponsorship, we should have done a bit more research into what we would actually need for the permanent residency, and we should have and could have started a bit earlier with all the documentation and all that. But other than that, I think we're exactly, or at least I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I don't think I would have done anything differently. To be fair, I think I'm pretty happy with life right now.
That is so refreshing to hear. Honestly, I feel like lately, every time I see people, all of my friends, we've all sort of come at the same time. And we have this joke, like we're asking each other, like, how much time do you have left, sort of. Because everyone's like just in the stage of like getting, having to go back home because everyone was like too positive of being able to stay here and never actually came through. But it does seem like you've had a bit more like a stable run here in Australia, whereas I feel like I've been like all over the place. So that's really refreshing to hear. Um,
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it has been for me. Yeah, that it's been fairly stable. Um, I didn't really have the real backpacking experience, I would say, because when we came here, we went straight to my brother, who had been here for a few years already when we arrived. So we kind of had someone in front of us who had the experience of going through things, and he could tell us straight away what we have to have, what we have to do. He helped us with our first farm job. We did the farm for half a year. Um, but we never kind of lived in the hostels. We never lived in a car. We never really did that, I would say, the backpacking experience, because we went to Queensland first, and then after half of a year, we came to Sydney, and we've been in Sydney ever since. And kind of in 2017, we already moved in an apartment that we rented, and we actually stayed in that same apartment for 6 years. Um, we moved out a year ago, about now, and now we've been living in a new apartment for a year. So I think we've always kind of been fairly stable in what we were doing. And my partner has been with the same company since 2000, September 2016. So, you know, yeah, I think we've had fairly stable life in here.
that is so cool. Um, what's your plan for the next, I don't know, 5 years? Obviously, you're raising a baby, going through your PR. What else is there? Do you have any more plans?
Travel as much as possible before I'm old. Well, I don't know, maybe I want to travel when I'm old as well, but um, definitely traveling because I do have fair bit of a places, a bucket list places that I want to go. Hopefully have the permanent residency. Hopefully after that, in 5 years, ideally would have the citizenship. Maybe own a property, but you know, that's maybe a big dream, but we'll see. And well, obviously do good at my job, and I think the most thing that I want to do is just enjoy life. Like I don't want to have a regret of being old and thinking like, damn it, I could have done so much and I did so little. Like looking back at thinking like, oh God, I was so sad at some point. Like I don't want to have that. I want to have a stable, not very stressful, um, and happy life. Yeah. So that's planned for next 5 years, but we'll see.
And if someone listening to this is, sort of going through the idea of, oh, like I would love to be a travel agent and I would love to get into the industry, would you have like what sort of personality traits you would need to have? Um, like how to work yourself up to there. So you're mostly working from home. Um, what would be
Right now,
your
yeah.
suggestions for someone who wants to get into that industry?
Well, I think what you have to have is that at some point you have to be a bit pushy. Like sometimes people need a little bit of a push. Um, Sometimes people don't know for sure what they wanna have or what they wanna do, where they wanna travel. So you kind of have to be a bit like, that's okay, I'll figure that out for you. Mm, But you have to also learn to listen, and I guess you have to be a bit like having like a crystal ball and kind of thinking like, oh, like what these people might have, because you have to think a lot, you have to listen a lot. Um, and also like even just not just listening but understanding what people are saying to you, what they want to do. But you also have to be ready for working kind of almost 24/7 if you want to be a good travel agent, because situations happen all the time, so you have to have like a very strong work ethics. Because if this literally there can be a situation where a Sunday night someone is at the airport and they need help and you have to be ready to help them, because if you're not doing that, so what's the point of having a travel agent, you know? I've had a situation on the this year on Mother's Day. I literally had in the morning a situation that was one of those clients who actually didn't go at the airport at the right time. So I had on the Mother's Day literally was working the whole morning to get them sorted. And I guess that's one of the things that you have to do. You have to sometimes sacrifice a little bit your own time to help your clients.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, be ready to work all the time. But it's rewarding. It's really rewarding because when you have the option of when you help someone and they're like really grateful for you, you just really feel like, okay, I've done something good.
Do you have like really good benefits for like flight companies when you're working as a travel agent?
Sometimes you have some benefits, like you might have a bit um cheaper prices for if you're going somewhere. So there's benefits like often the suppliers will come and have events to introduce their products, and you will be invited and you could have like an awesome night out with the suppliers. So there are definitely benefits. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do you want to go through and do a bit of a promotion on where people can find you if they want to um, book a flight with you and go back home? Because honestly, guys, I really recommend it. Like you said, if you just want to do like a simple one where they know what they're gonna get and whatever, it's $75, and you know, like the amount of benefits you get out of it is insane. So where can people find you?
Uh, so we have an office in Sydney, in Surrey Hills. So people are always welcome to come into our office. I'm not there right now because I'm working from home most of the time, but I do have my lovely colleagues in there. But it's basically if someone you can even message me. Like I think you are the one who always message me on Facebook, right? So people can message us, me, everyone else who works for us on Facebook. We do have our own Facebook page as well. You can just type in Aerotravel and you can find us. We do also have a web page. Um, I think it's called aerotravel.com.au. I mean, I don't think I know. I'm pretty sure. It's called aerotravel.com.au. Um, and there's all the information, like there's all our emails in there. People can call me, like there's our phone numbers in there. And our email is info@aerotravel.com.au. You just send us their email, and one of us is happy to help. And it's oftentimes I feel like people think that we only do travel between Australia and Estonia, which is not true. We actually do everything. If someone wants to go basically wherever in the world, we can help with that. And we can help with whatever, like if it's a hotel booking, transfers, insurance, whatever people want, we can help with that, organize everything. So yeah, and even if sometimes people like they just want to see what we offer, they can just send us an email. It's fine. We'll have a look. If they're not happy with what we're offering, that's fine also. But sometimes people realize like, oh wow, that's actually really good, and I wasn't expecting that, and there you go. So we're always happy to help, even if people just have questions about something. That's fine. Just come to us if we can help this time. Happy to help. If maybe we can't help this time, that's fine as well, because you know not always everything is gonna be fit for everyone, but maybe next time it will be. So I'm not going to say no to anyone, and I'm sure that my colleagues are exactly the same, that they are literally there to answer all the questions.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I'll definitely
Because honestly, I can say we're a bunch of lovely ladies, and I don't think I know anyone who has a work ethic like all of us do. Because I can honestly say that literally every single one of us who works for Aerotravel is willing to work over hours, work Saturdays, as long as we can make sure that our customers are happy and satisfied. So
Yeah,
keep that in mind.
I can definitely stand by that, guys, because literally every time I've had any issues, you write to her, and every time I'm like, oh, she's probably sleeping. No, guys, she's awake 24/7. Literally, she'll answer you so quickly. It's unreal. So yeah, I'll definitely stand by that. I'll put all of her information down in the link as well, so you guys can find all of that information easily. And if you have any more questions, like she said, feel free to reach out. And if you have any more questions, we can do another podcast, guys. If there was something unsaid, something unanswered, if you need more travel hacks, um, we'll get it. But thank you so much for joining us today. I hope we answered some of your questions. I hope we got you thinking to really plan your travels through, because there is so much that can go wrong. And there is, like you said, you really need to prepare, because when you're coming to Australia, there's so many things that you need to consider, all the way from your visas, all what you declare, what you can bring, how much money you need to have, and everything, and also like seasoning, where you're flying. So there's so much information in all of that. But thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah.